Welcome to Spooky Times with Eric D. I am your host, Eric D. So that works out well. I'm joined tonight by my nephew, Tyler. So welcome back, Tyler.
Thank you for having me.
This is my plan is that this is going to be a mini episode, but who knows? We might enjoy talking about our subject tonight so much that it becomes a regular full-sized episode. But even if it does, there's going to be another episode released this week. So I don't know if this will be the first or the second one that gets released. We'll see. But this will be released. There'll be another one. And then on the 28th, I'm releasing the Halloween special with celebrity guest cameos, I guess I should say. They're literally cameos, but they're still going to be fun. So that's the plan. But tonight, Tyler and I are going to tell you guys about a website that we found. I wouldn't say we discovered it because it's been around for quite a long time, but we just found it for ourselves at a family birthday party, right? That's what the event was?
Yeah.
We were sitting around the picnic table and talking about spooky stuff as we are wont to do. And I think, because you know what? Because you know how I take the girls somewhere every year?
Yes.
And I try to make it like a little bit spooky. I think that's why I was looking up like haunted Massachusetts or something like that.
Yeah.
One of those kind of search terms. And this website came up, and it's all true, in quotation marks, ghost stories submitted by real actual users of this website. Now, the fun part / the problem with that is that the internet, I don't know if you guys know this, but it takes all types. And especially like ghost story websites where people are like reporting their own ghost stories, they don't always tend to be the most socially apt people, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Judging by what they write anyway. The typos they make, the way they phrase things, the fact that they are not good storytellers, that they don't know what is a good story and what is like even possibly ghostly or not. We've got some prime examples of that coming up, but we were having a good time just looking through and finding some ghost stories from towns that we were familiar with because we lived there or because we worked there or spent a lot of time there for one reason or another. So we're going to present some of those stories to you. Some of them are actually kind of interesting, and some of them are more interesting for factors, like I said earlier, is that they're kind of entertaining in just how bad they are or what a non-story they are. But we're going to read them in like spooky voice, like we're going to give it the full, reading that they deserve, because these are real people out there. I submitted my own
real experiences.
Yeah, I submit, and just because people aren't great at communication doesn't mean that what they're saying is necessarily untrue or that that they're making it up. I'm not saying that, but it does make for some entertaining reading, and probably not in the way that they intended. But before we get into it, I, of course, want to remind everyone to check out the website, spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place, and that's the show's webpage. From there, you can find links to all of our social media. Now, listen up, because there is a change. The Instagram has changed. The new Instagram account is at Spooky Times with Eric D. It's a long Instagram name, but it matches the show. It can't be confused with some other spooky time, Spooky Times with Brad or something. It's just Spooky Times with Eric D. And that is also the Facebook. So you can find us on facebook.com/Spooky Times with Eric D. And I don't know, I think I listed a couple other things, but in fact, I don't even know if I changed them on the website yet. So don't go to the website to find those links. Just listen to me now and go to those places, and you can find us there. But Tyler, now that we've got all that out of the way, let's get right into it. Of course, I wanted to start with my hometown which is Ashland, Massachusetts. And there's a story. This is a good example of the kinds of stories that you can find on this website. And this is what I would call a non-story story. So here we go. But again, presenting it, I'm going to give it the full reading that it can. However, I will point out a lot of these folks not great with their punctuation or their spelling. So there might be some hiccups here or there. I'm going to try to read it as written, but I will add punctuation to make it so that you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, here we go. Here's one from Ashland. I was hiking in the forest off Winter Street when all of a sudden I saw a Native American in old-time clothing standing between trees. He was not on the trail, looking at me. I was so scared that I couldn't move. I wasn't so sure, but it looked like he was trying to tell me something because he was raising his hand up. He faded away before he could. I have gone back many times since, but never seen him again. This happened in the summer of 2002, submitted by Anonymous. So aside from the fading away part, I guess, it sounds like you might have just seen a person of Native American descent, maybe?
I can imagine that. Yeah. No, that seems pretty reasonable to assume.
Yeah. And also, you say old-time clothing. Can we define that?
Yes, I believe that would just be, would that be considered traditional?
Well, I don't know, because is he talking about like I saw someone in traditional Native American, clothing? Or is he saying like I saw a guy who was dressed like he was in the Victorian era, but he was like a Native American looking person? You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's what leaves it up to debate here. But the problem with saying Native American, okay, there were tribes that like passed through the Ashland area, but as far as I know, we don't have any like tribes that were like settled in Ashland.
Yeah.
Most
Do
of the yeah.
Do you know the street he's talking about?
Well, off Winter Street, yeah.
Okay.
That's like the state forest. I've walked through there. I've never seen any Native American spirit or otherwise. But yeah, that's the story of the Native American in Ashland.
I was looking at the Wachusett area, as that's where I grew up, and a lot of them can be summed up or simply are just one sentence, and they don't really explain any of the details. However, I did find a few from Paxton. So this is where it gets a little interesting, because Paxton is kind of the more mysterious of the Wachusett towns, because it's really looked on as like, there's more cows in Paxton and Princeton than there are actual people. And it seems like these two people, Connor and Brennan, encountered something in that small, quiet town. They say, one night, I had a few friends sleep over, and we decided to go for a walk in the trails, which started in a cemetery. As we entered the cemetery of Leicester, Brennan, noticed a tall figure wearing a blue button-down shirt. I thought it was nothing. Later that night, we all fell asleep at my place, which is said to have been haunted. I had a dream about the figure. I started off with me looking around and ended with me looking at the figure I had seen at the cemetery earlier that day. I then started to worry. The next day, being the day I wrote this, I saw the figure again in Connor's backyard near the woods. Connor then claimed to have been hearing walking in the woods and seeing shadows before he even knew I had seen any figure. That was when we thought it's time to tell people about this. Submitted by Connor and Brennan. So Again, not a lot to go off of. However, it seems to be a spirit from a different town that then sort of came to Paxton or Princeton. Why do they have an interest in Connor and Brennan? I don't know. Why do they have an interest in Paxton itself? I don't know. But I did find that interesting of just the only sole descriptor being just a blue button-down shirt. I've worn a blue button-down shirt before, and I don't think I've looked very ghostly-like, but crazier things.
I saw a lot of stories of like I was driving by a graveyard and I
Yes.
saw a person walk right out in front of me and then they disappeared. Or they walked in front of me, but who would be walking through a graveyard at that time of night? First of all, weirdos like me and Tyler probably.
Yeah. No, it's been done before.
But a lot, like I think just about every town that has a story like that. And one of the ones I saw was like, I saw a young man in jeans and a t-shirt cross the street at 11:30 at night from the cemetery. He didn't fade away. He didn't even look at me. He just walked across the street. And it was like, yeah, that's just a guy walking across the street. So there's lots of stories like that. Did we say the name of this website? It's ghostofamerica.com, all one word, ghostofamerica.com. And you can search by state, or you can just type the name of your town right in there and it will come right up. Like I said, we had a lot of fun going through these at the party, but we are a family of weirdos, to be fair.
I would like to note that this website is very poorly designed on perhaps every front, of stories cut off randomly halfway through the page, and like just don't expect a complete story on every page. There will be some that are one sentences long, some that go to multiple pages, and it will just randomly cut off. And yeah, it's not the best designed site, I will say.
It looks like they built it in about the year 2000.
2000 in about probably 20 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah, and haven't updated it since. Well, Tyler, I then had to pay attention to Framingham, which is another city I've spent a lot of time in. And of course, if you listen to my recent episode about vintage Halloween collecting, you'll know it's the home of Dennison Manufacturing Co., which made all those great Dennison Halloween party materials and the boogie books, or bogey books, depending on how you pronounce it. And so let's talk about Framingham. There is a ghost of a nun seen at the Bethany Apartments on Bethany Road. In the apartments on the 3rd floor. 3 people, maybe more, have seen it. A white cloud ghost with no human shape was seen crossing the road at about 3 a.m. on Bethany Road. They were sober and used no drugs. They were heading towards Ashland when the cloud crossed over slowly from the right side of the road toward the graveyard at ground level. It was about 5 feet high. They drove through it. When the driver and the passenger looked back, it was gone. Submitted by John. I believe what John is describing there is fog.
Yes, that's also a common theme is fog or mist.
Yeah, I mean, so it is weird sometimes, like that it just comes out like kind of on its own, but it does happen. And if you drive through it, you will disperse that little cloud. So yes, it makes sense that when you look behind you after you drive through it, it's not there anymore. I was looking up towns that I was familiar with, but I also like to focus on like small rural towns because I think that they have some good stories and also some of the more entertaining storytellers as well.
Yes.
I'm just thinking ahead because my next one actually is from Burlington, which is I would not consider a small rural town. But I did like this one because of the writing style here. So let me present to you a ghost story from Burlington. If you go out to Mill Pond Reservoir on a very quiet day, you might hear the voice of a ghost talking to you. Long before the reservoir was built, there was a murder here. A man had murdered another man over a woman and buried his body where the reservoir is now. A bit after the murder, he turned himself in due to his conscience, and he took the police to the location where he had buried the body. They found the place, but it was all dug up and the body was gone. That part remains a mystery to this day. After they built the dams that create the reservoir, people started hearing a voice there when it was very quiet. People who had known the man that was murdered said they clearly recognized it as his voice. You can still hear the voice to this day. The words are illegible, but you can clearly make out the voice. Submitted by Anonymous. I like that story because it's told in such a way, like it's told like a child telling you like a spooky story.
Yes, the man murdered the man. Yes.
Yeah. There was a murder and now there's a ghost. But I also like the part about, he led the police back to where the body was.
Yep.
But the body was gone and it remains a mystery to this day. And that's all they say about it.
Yep.
So my question then is, well, wait, so what happened to this murderer? Because like if you go in to confess to a murder and then you take to the police to where you say the body is and there's no body, can they still charge you with a murder?
Yeah. Well, they're definitely still keeping you. I don't know what they're keeping you for, but I'd still keep that man.
Yeah. There was another story on this site that said something. It was very brief and it was just, I think it was in Franklin, but I could be wrong. It just said, sometimes I hear strange noises. That was it. That was the whole story. Not even saying when or where or what, aside from in the town, but.
I got a longer one from Holyoke, Massachusetts.
All right.
This is one of those famous, I was working at a place that is now haunted. And of course, now, if you had to guess, who working at a big community college is going to know where the ghosts are and are going to have the most amount of ghostly encounters, which part of the, which people in the building are going to have that encounter?
Well, I'm imagining it's got to be some kind of liberal arts.
The people staying there late. So this is a janitor story.
Okay, working crew. Okay, got you.
Working crew. All right. So I was working at Holyoke Community College for 6 years in the fitness center. Every time I walked in those front doors, my coworkers would always tell me and the other coworkers of mine of what has been going on there. The janitor told me that when she came in at 4 a.m. to clean the locker rooms, she could hear water running in the showers. When she went back there to check it, no one was there, but the water was still full on blasting and running. One day, I was locking up for the night. I went around to see if all the doors were locked, and I went to the back stairwell on the second floor. When I did hear footsteps coming up the stairs towards the second floor, I said hello. No one was there. After that happened, I heard what sounded like a flatbed push cart dragging across the floor downstairs in the janitor room. The other day in the summertime, my coworker and I were in the front desk office talking. All of a sudden, we both heard a big banging noise on the wall across from the front desk door. We both jumped out of our seat and went to investigate the hallway. That was where we heard the banging noise. And as soon as we got out of the hallway, it stopped. However, when we came back into the front desk office, it started banging on the wall again. One other day in December 2011, I was in the gymnasium in the morning time around 7 a.m. I was cleaning the floor. I was the only person there, and no one else was around. I then heard a man's voice. It said, "You're fired." And soon after that, I heard a woman's voice saying, "Hi." I looked around and did not see anybody. I then ran out of the gymnasium and told my coworker that something was really going on in this place. I told her what had happened. She did not want to believe me, but I know it was true because I witnessed it. And so ends the tale of the janitor. And apparently his coworker who's like, oh, things definitely go on in here. And then when he like talks to her about it, she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. No. Also, out of all the things the ghosts just say, you're fired.
Well, maybe they were a big Trump Apprentice fan, and
Yep.
or just being a little jokester. And
that one actually did get a response though. Hi, Dennis. Do you still work at Holyoke Community College? My name is Jacobo. I'm assuming it's Jacob, just spelled wrong. Founder and lead investigator of New England Supernatural Research. If you can get me permission from the school, I would be happy to investigate your claim and provide any possible evidence. And then they give their contact information.
It's very smart on a public website. You always want to do that. All right, and no further comment.
No further comments. So
too bad. I hope they look up.
I'm hoping to. Still, there might be some outreach there going on. Hopefully, we can solve this and really figure out who wants this janitor fired.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Like I said, I like to look at the more rural towns, and when I think of rural, there's certainly some out this way too. But Western Mass is home to some good old folk. So let's go to Greenfield, Massachusetts, and talk about the Red Door Bar. The Red Door, a historic bar in downtown Greenfield, has a long history of possibly paranormal activity. Reports include strange lights, objects moving, reports of being watched, footsteps, apparitions, and other interesting stuff. This bar goes back to at least the Prohibition era. Sights Unseen Paranormal is currently doing historical research and intends to investigate the bar in September or October of 2011. Note that this is a great bar. Great music, adequate TV for sports, and the staff rock. This place has classy and nice customers as well. One of my favorite places to go in the Pioneer Valley. That's from Bobby. And guess what? He works for Sights Unseen Paranormal. Or he did in 2011. There was no follow-up that I saw, unfortunately. What's wrong with these paranormal folks? We need the details.
Yes. So I do have another one. This one comes to us again from South Hadley at Mount Holyoke. But it comes with actually a visual. A few weeks ago, I was FaceTiming my parents late at night in my dorm at Mount Holyoke. When I hung up with them, I went to snap one of my friends and the camera was open facing away from me. In the window reflection in the photo, I saw a figure in the doorway. But when I looked straight at the window or back over my shoulder, nothing was there. And I'm going to see if I can just try to send you this image. I threw the link down in the chat at least. But I want you to tell me how ghostly that figure in the mirror looks.
All right, let's see it. That looks like the lady in question.
It very much does.
Yep.
Yep. That would do it.
That's what I mean, we don't know what Leah looks like. Maybe that lady looks nothing like her. There is clearly a person's reflection.
I will say that. There is clearly a person there.
Yeah, it looks like a Pepper's Ghost kind of thing. So it looks like it's a reflection of a reflection.
Yes.
Because you can see through it and everything. But it looks like a modern person, younger woman, maybe wearing a scarf or something. All right, Tyler, taking it back east a little bit, we're going to go to Franklin, Massachusetts. And this one, I think this one is actually a little bit interesting. So here we go. We were watching the 4th of July fireworks from the Union Cemetery about 18 years ago. The fireworks were fantastic from this locale, according to a friend. She was right. My husband and 3 kids were with us, and we got separated leaving the cemetery. He had our 11-year-old with him, and I had the 8 and 4-year-olds. As we were leaving, my 8-year-old and I looked at a carriage being driven by a man dressed in Edwardian clothing and what appeared to be a casket in the back. The quote unquote person sat up from the casket, and we walked so fast, I don't even remember leaving the cemetery. We didn't talk about it at all, in fact. I remember her, my 8-year-old daughter, sleeping between my husband and myself, no questions asked. Years later, she asked if I saw the same thing, and I said yes. I mean, what gives? It wasn't Halloween. My husband and oldest daughter never saw this person. Submitted by Kathy. So again, maybe not the best storytelling, but that would be pretty creepy if you were walking through a cemetery and you saw an old-timey hearse driving by. And especially then if you saw someone sit up in the back.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially the Undertaker sit up. That would get me.
Yep. Now, Tyler, when we were looking through these stories, we were in the town of Sterling, Massachusetts. And that was the one. I mean, there were lots of good stories from Sterling.
Lots of them. So comparatively, Sterling has, let's see what the official number is once I figure out the alphabet and can. So 4 sightings. That's, pretty good comparatively to the other amounts that other towns have. But they also have quality, as you're going to find out.
Yeah. So it starts off with a bang. And what I would classify as a non-story story. But although this one could be a sad one. Here it is. I saw a dog drowning in the ice when I drove by the quag one night. I turned around, but I could see nothing at all. I reported it, but I could not see any sign of anything out there. Submitted by Anonymous. So at best, and best I'm meaning like you actually saw something, you saw a dog drown. That's very sad. But I think this person is then making the assumption that because they didn't see the dog anymore, that it was a ghost, perhaps.
Yes.
But if a dog drowns in ice, it would make sense that you wouldn't see it.
That would make sense, yes.
So there is a little logic gap there. So more spookiness from Sterling. There was a young girl about 13 and 14 years old wearing stretchy blue bell bottoms and a horizontally dark and light blue striped long sleeve shirt. She was walking around in circles underneath a streetlight. As I drove up to her, I slowly stopped and said, "Do you need help?" I tried to look at her face, but I could not see anything. I couldn't even see her neck. All her hair was in front of her face because she was slouched over with her hands and her arms tingling down, walking in a circle. After I had asked her if she needed help, she started walking into the woods towards a satanic site in Sterling. I got a bad vibe and started slowly pulling off. Just as I started slowly pulling off, she whipped around with her limp arms flinging to the sides and started walking faster towards the car. Even when she whipped around and looked at me again, I still could not see any part of her skin or her face or her neck. I drove home like a bat out of hell and called the police, just in case she was someone who needed help, or maybe they could find something down there that needed to be found. The site is on Justice Hill Road at the very top near the peacock cages. The peacock cages is a small brick building with a cage inside that used to house birds. A little ways up from that is a crushed-in shed which was the shed from a burnt house. The burnt house became the foundation of the satanic rituals of the 70s and 60s. This girl was leading me down the trail to that house foundation. I wasn't about to go down there at night, considering none of us know whether or not it is still active in a sacrificial way. But I will tell you that this sighting, I think you meant sighting, happened more than 6 years ago. And just this year, I found out that that road led to his sacrifice ground. I was very surprised to hear that, at least. I took it upon myself to walk down during daylight. I found the shed, and I found the old foundation, which yearly has a long branch hanging over it, still in perfect condition. Well, a lot of other branches around it were cleared away. Do not go to the woods of Sterling at night unless you have protection of some sort, and I don't necessarily mean a gun. Go exploring in the day, but leave during nighttime. Farther down that road on the right, on the road that takes you to Leominster through Sterling. It sounded like there should have been more to that sentence, but nope. Further down that road on the right, on the road that takes you to Leominster through Sterling. Also, do not go into those woods as well. A black cloud, amoeba-like presence resides in those woods. And there was also a body found near Haywood Ponds in the 80s. Also, Lake Washakum is haunted. It used to be a dog for a tiny stream paddle boat that would take residents around the lake back in the early 1900s. I'm going to guess he meant dock.
Yes.
And not dog. But again, I like that. This pond used to be a dog. I've actually had dreams. Well, you know what? That does make sense with our last story.
It does. It does.
Oh boy. I've actually had dreams of this before in Sterling's historical web. No, I've actually had dreams of this before the Sterling's historical website went up. After they put up all the pictures, I was completely amazed. I also got my hair stroked on Colby Road in the woods behind Dunkin' Donuts, where there is nothing there. I like that this person just has a bunch of things that they just want to throw out there.
All at once. At once.
One time, there was a murder, and I went to the satanic place. And one time, I got my hair stroked behind a Dunkin' Donuts.
But there's nothing back there. Trust me, nothing back there. Nothing funny, no funny business behind the Dunkin' Donuts. Don't you worry.
Are you still living on Colby Road? I once heard a man's... Oh, sorry, that was supposed to be in a gruff voice. Let me try that again. Are you still living on Colby Road? I once heard a man speaking something in a gruff voice, but I couldn't quite make it all out. Yes, these are stories, but completely true stories. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the poor little boy that was thumbing for a ride home at 1:30 a.m. from Sterling's funeral home. I was with someone else at the time. They were driving, so they did not want to pull over, and they got scared. If it was just me, I probably would have pulled over to help the poor soul. Someone was also with me when I saw that black amoeba-like cloud thing chasing my car. I was the passenger in that situation. Also, there are orange glowing orbs around my house that I actually have a video of. I also have a video of some blue bouncing orbs that are bouncing all around my neighbor's yard and shooting everywhere. I can't take credit for the blue or black ones, though, considering my friend Christopher was the one who noticed them first. But I have the proof. I have witnesses. People need to know what is beyond their normal comprehension. Submitted by Hannah. That was a lot. I mean, she's got proof. She's got witnesses.
She's got a novel on her hands too.
I think you need to look her up. I mean, this could be the next Conjuring with everything we found.
I was looking up the town of Sterling, anything historical on their website. Nothing really, except there is right on like the homepage, do not use Lake Washakum until further notice. And there is an algae bloom affecting the lake. Don't worry, nothing haunted, just an algae bloom, unless that is caused. Unless that is caused by a mysterious amoeba-like blob.
So there's like a follow-up. Is this by Hannah too? I don't know.
This is submitted by
No,
Anonymous.
anonymous. So this is like a different person, hopefully, probably. So this black blob is a thing in Sterling, apparently. Have you heard about this
Apparently,
before?
I have not heard about this black blob. I have not seen said black blob.
It's hard to say, first of all.
It is. It is.
But tell us more about this black blob.
All right. The large black blob that followed and engulfed my friend's car. It is also in the woods past Elliott Road, going down the shortcut road that leads to Leominster. So we both have two people talking about the exact same place, which, they might be in cahoots. They might be Hannah. Who knows? It started following right before the old Pandolph Perkins graveyard. I just looked at my friend and she said, I know. We both were freaked out. Submitted by Anonymous.
Wow, man. Yeah. Well, especially where they're so specific with the roads. This might call for an investigation, Tyler.
Honestly, yes. And plus, Hannah had an asphyxiation almost with like street names, like, oh, you live on this road, you live on George Hill, you live
She
behind
has proof. She has witnesses.
Yes. And apparently, if this is Hannah, she has other witnesses and they know.
Yeah. So there's one more story from Sterling. We've basically read all of Sterling, but there's one more. And this one's from someone who's describing themselves as, kind of an old timer.
Oh, yes. This must have been old times.
Yeah. I lived in Sterling many years ago, before I-190 was built. Back then, it was a small town and not such a bedroom community. Within this small, sleepy town lurked a great evil. There was, and is to this day, an occult that would meet and conjure up the spirits of dead residents. Submitted by Peter. That is probably my favorite one, because there's an occult.
Yes, again, not something I really knew about until today. Also, to backtrack, I-190 was actually not fully constructed until 1983, so maybe not old.
Okay. Well, listen, it's not just a cult, it's occult.
Occult.
That's what I'm getting at. There was an occult.
Yes.
There was and is to this day. Now, Tyler, you've been in Sterling many years.
I've spent my fair share of years here.
Have you? I mean, do you ever get a sinister vibe around town? Are there certain people that you look at and you're just like, this guy's up to something?
No, I can't say that I have. Even when going down to that Dunkin' Donuts, which Sterling is a small town. That business board must be pretty strict with what it allows, because we only have one Dunkin' Donuts. So that Dunkin' Donuts is the same one. I've never gotten my hair pulled. I've never seen any occult like people at that Dunkin' Donuts. And I've certainly never gotten any bad vibes around there.
Well, I'm going to start going to that Dunkin' Donuts and hanging out behind it, dressed in a black robe. And if people come by, I'm just going to stroke their hair and warn them about the blob.
Ask them where they live. Do they still live on whatever hill road?
Yeah. So there's a follow-up to that story, because someone commented, it's someone who just calls himself Sterling. So maybe it's just the town. Says, I completely agree with you. I have seen many men, dark spirits and light spirits, murdered spirits in Sterling, plus a big, large blob that will follow your car around. So, I mean, listen, man, it sounds like some spooky ass shit is going down in Sterling.
But in that reply, they also say, I might submit my 3 stories.
Yeah, that could be Hannah.
Could be Hannah, because if you think about it, they probably put the newer ones first. So this, before I-90 was built, probably the first written ghostly thing that's ever happened in Sterling on this website. And then Hannah took that as her call to adventure and was like, okay, time to tell my side of the story.
I think we definitely got to investigate this. In fact, I'm hanging out with my friend Alex next week, and we were originally planning to go to Dudley Road in Billerica, which is supposed to be like a very haunted road.
Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe Sterling's where it's at. Maybe we got to go out there and look for the occult
Yes.
and hang out behind that Dunkin' Donuts. So Tyler, do you have any more stories, or is that what you found?
No, that pretty much sums up everything that I have. There was one about someone seeing the founder of Paxton outside their window, which I did find was very interesting. Their story starts off with I was watching out my window and I heard a scream. Then I saw a man that looked like he was from the 1700s. I noticed they looked like Charles Paxton, the man Paxton was named after. Charles promised to give the town a bell if they named the town Paxton. And then it continues on the next page. They named the town Paxton, but Charles Paxton left Massachusetts, so Paxton never got its bell. Submitted by Ella. So
That is the most interesting story about Paxton.
Yeah, that probably, honestly. Just, imagine just looking out your window, you hear a scream, and then you just see, oh, is that town founder Charles Paxton?
And what was he screaming about?
Probably like trying to give you his bell or whatever. But Ella actually has multiple posts. Let's see. I was in the bathroom in my house and opened the closet door. I saw a little gray figure that looked like a man, and then the blankets in the closet started shaking. I quickly closed the door, and then the bathroom became really cold, and it was 95-degree day. It was a 95-degree day. Okay, I just want to make sure they put that in there. But yeah, so Ella's seen some spooky stuff in Paxton.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the point is that, we obviously this website is very extensive. People can write in. I've submitted my own stories, which you've already heard if you listen to the podcast. But if you go to the Ashland section, you will see my stories on there. And we can't go through the whole website, but look up where you live. And if you find a story that's legitimately spooky or interesting, at least, or if you find just some winners like Hannah, I think Hannah's my favorite post that we read this whole time. Then send them my way. And you know how to find me. I'm on Instagram at Spooky Times with Eric D. I'm on Facebook at Spooky Times with Eric D. The website is still spookyas.com, but you could go there and you can email me and all that kind of stuff too. So plenty of ways to reach out. So this was kind of a mini episode, but I think basically a full-length episode. So Tyler, thank you for doing this with me.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah. And like I said, you guys have other episodes to look forward to. You're getting your full set of October episodes. No worries there. And the Halloween special will be coming soon with celebrity guests. Who's coming? I don't know. I mean, we got all kinds of people that might be stopping by. So you're going to have to check it out to find out. And I asked them all the same questions, and we'll hear what their answers were. Those questions, I'll tell you that part, were: what was your favorite Halloween costume growing up? And what was your favorite scary movie? So you're going to hear from all the stars. All the stars will be there at the Spooky Times Halloween party for the Spookaroos. But until then, don't be afraid.
Spooky Times is a Witchfinder production.